everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for being here, and a special thank you to the subscribers. I can't do this without you. I so appreciate you. If you are here and not a subscriber, please consider hitting that button so I can bring you great guests like the gentleman I have today. I have Sepand Samzadeh and Oscar Fuentes Bills from Days Between Stations. They're a duo of multi-instrumentalists that create their own brand of music that's been labeled progressive rock, art rock. I've heard psychedelic rock, even space rock. So we'll talk about those labels and how they perceive the band. The band was formed in 2003 in Los Angeles, and they have 4 studio records available now. They include legendary guests like Tony Levin, Peter Banks, XTC's Colin Moulding, and the great Rick Wakeman, of course, among many others, Billy Sherwood. There's a whole long list of great guests they had. Their latest record, called Perpetual Motion Machines, Music for a Film, and it's available now. And first thing I want to start, I want to thank you guys for being here. You're in Los Angeles right now. Fire all over the place, destruction, a lot of people losing lives and homes and everything else, and you found the time out of your day to spend it on my little show, and I so appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's and blessings to everybody in Los Angeles. It's been frightening to watch. But let's talk about the name of the band. Days Between Stations. When I first heard the name of the band, it's so intriguing. It's not like any other band name that I've really heard. Where does it come from? Was the first question. Where does that name come from? And then I find it's Steve Erickson's '85 novel, which is a really intriguing novel. So this whole band intrigued me by the name to begin with, and then I hear the music, and it became even more intriguing. You guys are just doing your own thing. You do so many different things. It's such a fun listen. So first, tell me about the name of the band. I look at Steve Erickson's '85 novel. What was it? Just how does it influence the music? What was that? What is it about that novel that made you name the band Days Between Stations?
Wow. Well, I remember it was probably mid '90s. I walked into a record store here in the city of Tustin, here in Orange County, California, and found this book. Seemed interesting. It was Days Between Stations, Steve Erickson. It was signed actually, but they had it on sale for like few bucks,
Right.
And so I would always walk out of there with a handful of books, and
From the
I read
store?
Erickson's work. What was that?
The record store?
No, bookstore. Did I say record
bookstore?
store?
Sorry, I thought you were record store. All right.
No. There was a bookstore called Brindle's. Sadly, they're gone. Like a lot of those places are gone now. Everybody gets Amazon, and the poor mom and pop places are kind of disappearing.
Yeah.
But I was just blown away by this book, and sort of I think the way that it would tie in, and when we were looking for a name for the band, I suggested Days Between Stations, and I guess the tie-in would be that Erickson combines a lot of different genres in his work. There's a little bit of kind of Philip K. Dick-ish sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
It's literary fiction. There's a little bit of kind of everything in there, and it's very unique. I don't want to. I mean, that's certainly something we try to strive for, and as well as for me, what progressive rock is really like giving yourself license to go in any direction, any dip into any genre or direction that fits.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the tie-in, and also it's a really evocative name, like
It
because
is.
it's days between stations could be like physical, like train stations, could be
Yeah.
stations of life,
And
Right.
um,
that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The progression of life. It's a progressive
yeah,
kind of name. Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
and it's got this element of you're in transition between two periods of your life, and the older I get, it just seems that you're always in transition, um, and that happiness is more like a cookie in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
So you when you meet it, you try to enjoy it. It's like everything, it's impermanent,
Yeah.
and it's kind of, and it changes for me. I don't know if it changes for you, Oscar. It's kind of fluid with me too. It's like, those great albums you listen to, over 30, 40 years ago, and they're still your buddy.
Hmm.
The
yeah.
name's just kind of comforting for me. It soothes me.
Yeah. That's great. I
And
mean,
then
yeah. Go ahead, Oscar.
yeah, well, it could also mean sort of radio stations. So there's this image in my head of kind of dialing between stations, and you get you hear a little bit of
The snow.
one type of music, and then a little bit of
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah. There's a journey
But
from getting from one station to another.
To
Yeah.
another one.
right, exactly, yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting, and that's what I found intriguing about the name. At first, stations. I thought, okay, it's the physical, actual, like not a gas station, maybe, but a station where work is done, and
sure,
going between them. And then I thought, I got deeper into it. I said, it's a kind of a life journey, in the days in between
yeah,
those different stops, and I really, and then of course listening to the music, like I say, you guys do so much. You have so much to say, and there's so much feel to this music. It's almost, especially this record, it's like a score. It's like a life score, soundtrack to your life. All of those transitions are in the music, and it really fascinating to listen to, and it really fit the name. So it all came together for me. I was like, I get this,
yeah.
and
You
progressive
know,
music. Yeah, go ahead.
well, so I was thinking what relevant to what you're saying is that in our minds we slice up the like life into these like station stops,
Hmm.
right? But when you think about it, really, it's always the present, right? That's
Right,
what you're actually experiencing all the time.
right.
So it's kind of interesting in that sense as well, I think.
And
Yeah,
this is kind of the point I wanted to bring up, not to beat a dead horse anymore, but reading the book was very difficult for me. It was almost like reading Dali,
hmm,
and I tried it a second time, and I realized that it's the page I'm reading that matters, and the next page may not make sense at all. So it was really just enjoying the moment,
wow.
So yeah, it's really about being present.
And I
It's
need to do
kind of
that. I have not had a chance to read the book. So again, it sounds interesting.
roll up your sleeves.
It's an interesting read, I'm sure. Now you started this band in 2003. Self-titled debut 2007. How has the music changed? You do so much, and it seems to change from song to song, and it always has. Now, with this record being quite a bit different, even still. Uh, but overall, when you look back at those days when you just started the band, how has your approach changed first, and the music because of it?
Interesting.
Or has it changed?
That's some deep shit.
do
you
you
We're allowed
feel
to
it?
know, it's interesting.
Do you feel like
Uh,
it's changed? I mean, is when you think about it, like, oh wow, we're totally different, or is it not really? Do you have to? You seem to be searching for something that may be different. Is it different?
You want to go first, Oscar?
oh, sure, why not? I would say I think we're always searching for something different, and that hasn't changed. And um, there's sometimes when you land on something, certain place musically, where I feel like, oh, this is interesting. Let's stay here a while and explore this.
Right.
Like you get to a certain floor in a building, and you go like, oh, this is interesting.
Mhm.
I'm gonna, you know, explore here for a bit. Um, I think we've always like gone into different genres, and like I said, to me that's what progressive means, is just having the freedom to
Mhm.
um, go anywhere. And one thing that, yeah, some listeners might pick up on is, for 3 albums straight now, from In Extremis to this album, we've had an outright waltz in there.
Mhm.
Uh, very sort of classically structured waltz. Um, but I would say that um, the constant is, I mean, you're always you. And you pick up things along the way. We're always changing, and we're always hopefully evolving, and musically evolving. Um, and so I don't want to say that we're constantly like looking for the next thing or anything. I don't feel that way personally, uh, because like I said, sometimes I think you land on something and you think like, oh, this is interesting. Like, let's explore this for a bit.
Right.
And I think in some ways, and I know Sepand feels this way. I mean, maybe I should speak for you. But I think that the circle has closed a little bit, so that this new album is sort of harkening back to the first album in certain ways. Certainly in the sense that it's just the two of us.
Right.
Whereas Billy Sherwood was pretty heavily involved in the In Extremis and Giants.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I'll let Sepand chime in.
Yeah, when we first started out in 2003, it was just Oscar and I in a room. We're dealing with the death of Kurt Cobain and the aftermath of music. New bands that are not new for us. Mars Volta were coming out. There's a lot of excitement. Um, there was this brash of naivety that we had, that Oscar and I just did whatever, because there was no listeners. We didn't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
So we just did this thing, and Oscar was going through a lot of heartache. His mom was passing with cancer, and there's a lot of emotion involved. I was going through relationship stuff. And it turned out that we were so consumed by what was going on in our life, we didn't have energy to audition singers and stuff. And I remember just asking Oscar, "Hey, do you just want to do an instrumental album? Let's knock this out. Just
Right.
worry about the next
Yeah.
album." That's kind of what happened. And then it just kind of blew up in Europe. We were just shocked, because I guess I've always been on the lower side of self-esteem with music. Then the second album, we had recognition. Um, all of a sudden, we find out Rick Wakeman, Tony Levin, Colin Moulding, Peter Banks are on the album. My confession is I'm an alternative guy. I don't know anything about prog. So Kurt Cobain's my hero. So when Oscar asked me to solo on the first album, I looked at him like, "What'd you just say?" right? So as I'm going through this, now I have these solo gurus with me, right? So now I got to go from 3 chords or whatever it is to like, oh shit, I better learn to tap. I better learn to do all this stuff. I don't want to embarrass these guys. And I remember rehearsing 6-7 hours a day, just out of fear, right? Now as we're progressing, the more I'm sure, I don't want to use the word shredding because I'm not a shredder, but I'm finding that I'm not connecting with our own music. So with this album, it was like, you know what? Let's just have fun, right? Let's knock this out. And Oscar had said something for Being, and he had just left 2.5 minutes, right? Now, before I would nag about the solo, but I challenged myself. I said, how can you not play fast, but keep someone's attention for 2 minutes? It wasn't Oscar's intention for me to solo that long. I was brash about it, right? I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So there's always this thing that I'm trying to find, and it almost feels like at this stage of my life, we've gone to college and we're coming back. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, hey, Billy, look at what we learned. You know? So, I'm a little embarrassed about saying this, but I don't really listen to music. So I can't tell you what's changed, except I feel the record labels, if anything exists, people aren't taking chances. But there's some amazing stuff out there. It's just too much. I can't sort through it.
There's so much music. I hear so many people, around my age, and I'm 56. I hear a lot of people say, there's no good new music. Thinking to myself, I've got, stacks and stacks, figuratively, of great music. I mean, fantastic music from all around the world. There's so much I can't listen to it all. I mean, it's good. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. A lot of stuff gets overlooked because of that. But there is a lot. Like, floodgates have opened, and
I'm very happy about that.
I love having music in my life. So
and the thing is with like just kind of comparing ourselves with others, it's almost like you're in a race, and if you keep looking back, you're gonna miss the point. Right. So it's just really, for me, it's just, what do I have to prove?
And there is a confidence to what you do. I hear that when I listen to the music. And a lot of progressive music does that for me. Progressive in the true sense of the word, that it goes somewhere that the norm has not yet.
Right.
So it is truly progressive in nature, and you have to have confidence, I think, to do that. To do something that somebody else hasn't yet. You're jumping off the cliff. I hear a lot of that in your music. There's a confidence and a quality to it that you're secure with, and that's good enough. So I appreciate that. When I listen to it, they love what they do, and they're doing it because they love it, not for radio play or the label or anything else. You can feel that when you listen to the music.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that coming through the music. Now, you've mentioned Billy Sherwood, a big part of the band early on, those second, third album. Producer, plays bass, does a lot of different things. Profound impact on the music. It's different. What he did from the latest record. And I know you have close personal friendship with him. You brought in Navon Weisberg? Navon Weisberg to produce this one. Why go to Navon and away from Billy Sherwood?
It wasn't going away from Billy. he has a new mothership, a big one. Um, at the same time, just I just go back to watching Billy. He's so good at what he does that he just jumps on the surfboard anytime and rides that wave, doesn't second guess himself.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to watch. I think the pinnacle of musicianship is to have your idea and to be able to generate it, and hopefully in one take. He's there, right? We're not. This, it's not even a separation. I mean, I talk to Billy all the time. We're going to work together. In fact, with Nam, he wanted to stay an extra week to work on new songs with us.
Great.
And I'm just speaking for myself. I want to be at the level he is, and it's going to require a lot of more just facing our fears and falling.
Yeah.
Right? Because Big Brother was there with ideas, and he knew how to finish stuff, and he knew arrangements, right? And we're not at that level, so it's kind of nice for Oscar and I to kind of roll our sleeves up a little bit and just kind of toil with that.
Mm-hmm.
We get there, but it just takes us longer.
Yeah. And I'd say that's the norm. Billy is not the norm.
No, and it's amazing to watch. And
yeah.
It's almost like when you want to receive that sunshine, you want to grow a little bit, right? Yeah. So now it's more like, hey, Billy, we came up with this stuff. It's like, what do you think? And it's like we want to kind of explore more what we're about to.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for Oscar, but I feel like we're just about to start. I think we've been leaning on our heroes, and I think it's time for us to kind of dive off the cliff. Like you have people like Frank Zappa who did that right off the bat.
Yep.
For us, it's like, okay, we feel like we're blue collar, normal people, and our egos aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, but
that's just me talking.
Yeah, and I think that the music reflects like I say, a jump off that cliff for sure. What do you think, Oscar? Does it feel that way to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the way we recorded the first album, right? I would say about half of it was written from jams, right? Jams in the studio. Some of it, there was some demos I had of some stuff that Sepand had heard and said like, oh, this would be interesting. Could we do something like this with it? And then I would go like, that's weird. Will work. And then go like, let me see what I can do.
When he says you're crazy, I know I'm on a good trajectory.
Yeah. And I said that a lot. Like that, no, that's too different. All right, let me try it. I think when we had, pretty much In Extremis was pretty much written, musically speaking, before Billy came on board, and we were struggling to finish it. Like, songs had like, half the words written maybe. Some songs didn't have a vocal melody at all. Man Who Died Two Times had a completely different vocal melody. And then, we just connected with him immediately, right? So first of all, let me say that I've been, to me, Genesis, it's like the Beatles, So I remember driving to meet Billy at Starbucks, going like, holy shit, this is amazing. It's like having your action figures come to life. I've said this before, right. But that's what it is, because like these guys were just, names on these like holy, double gatefold albums that I would just stare at for hours,
Right.
And and then we go meet him, and he's just totally like just super nice, super chill, super. We just met at Starbucks.
Yeah.
In in the valley, and then we just connected, and definitely connected musically. And if I was going for something kind of mid-period Genesis, like from Duke, from Abacab or something, he would immediately go gotcha.
Yeah, he
And
totally got it. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And he got the newer references too, because we have a lot of younger or new, more recent influences. For
Hmm.
me, a lot of the like Simple Minds is a big one.
Hmm.
Uh, he caught on to some stuff that was inspired by Nine Inch Nails as well. It's
Right.
like, this sounds kind of Trent Reznor-ish. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, man, it's like uncanny,
Yeah. He can go anywhere. Yeah.
yeah,
Any
yeah, it's
genre, and he
crazy.
knows what you're talking about. It's pretty cool.
And
Yeah,
it's almost like being in a boxing ring with Muhammad Ali. It's just like bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm talking about the transitions, right? We're more of a slow burn, Pink Floyd,
Hmm.
So Oscar brings that Genesis thing too, where things switch up quickly. But
Right.
I'm kind of like, hey man,
Yeah.
relax, right? So yeah, with I don't get bored with those guys. My ADD is in heaven with these guys. Yeah.
I would imagine
yeah.
it is. Yeah, that's pretty great. And speaking of Floyd, you have Durga McBroom on this record, who has sang backup vocals with Floyd. It and it's the only vocal track on the record called "Being." Got a video for that. It's one of the longest. It is the longest track on the record. Um, is all of that intentional with the length of the tracks? Now, one thing I noticed with this record, which is odd for a progressive quote unquote record, they're short, abrupt tracks. They get to the point very quickly and they end quickly. Um, except for being 9 minutes, only one with vocals. That abruptness of the tracks, the shortness, the quick hit, was that intentional when you were writing it? Did you want to do something like that, or did it just happen organically that, hey, we've got what we want and we're done? You know.
It we literally had film to it, and it was based on Jean-Paul Baudier's students taking film of him in the desert doing his thing. Um, we were slave to the film, meaning that if someone is speaking, we can't do our solos, we can't triple tap.
All right.
And when scenes change, so does the music, or it ends. So what happened was, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar, about halfway through, we knew the film project wouldn't work out. Now Navon records the old-fashioned way, where everything is patch bay, right? So there's no digital record of anything. Once you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
So the first few tracks, we could not go back and change them, right? And I'll leave the rest of the story for Oscar, because his wisdom prevailed. But that's in essence what it was. We were slave to the film. And the last track was Oscar. It's the closing credits, basically, right? So you just see people's names, and we could afford putting lyrics and stuff on it. But Oscar had a huge say in saving this album.
Well, it's funny because we were writing to already edited scenes. So we were limited to some degree that way. And I did study film scoring at UCLA back in the day. I'm gonna date myself back in the day. But so there's a certain amount of reverse engineering, reverse math to work out how to make it work out. And so you might end up with one measure of 6/4 instead of 4/4.
Hmm.
one odd measure, 7/4 here and there. But I knew from the beginning. I thought, oh, some of these pieces, like it's just getting started here. Like let's when we finish the pieces, let's expand them, right? Sort of like what Peter Gabriel did with Last Temptation of Christ
Oh, yeah.
when he turned it into Passion. He took a little bit longer to finish the album and expanded the pieces out and stuff. Um, we didn't get a chance to do that, but I think ultimately, even though some of the pieces, end abruptly and stuff, I think there's a certain like charm to that as well.
Yeah.
And for Being, we had actually taken what was originally the um, the main titles, the starting titles section, which was just like I think 45 seconds or something, at
Right.
the beginning of the film, and then I went. That's the one track, like basically that we did get to expand, and as it developed and the melody like really suggested a vocal line, and so thus was Being born.
Yeah. And it was quite a vocal line. It is too.
Yes.
She is
Her
quite.
voice just,
It's something.
oh,
It is something.
it's unique. It just stands.
It really does. Yeah, I could see her saying, a cappella with nothing behind her, and just she could pull off just about anything, I think. And the video, there'll be a link below. Please, everybody, click on it.
Thank you.
Go watch it. It's crazy. It's just so great. And Seeds. You have. Is that bits of the film that we're seeing in that video? Because well, first the other thing, the artwork. It threw me back to like the old hypnosis
Right.
Oh, you
stuff.
nailed it.
You
You
know,
nailed
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
it's really that was I grew up looking at I'm an old guy, so I have the 12 inchers and I read credits and looked at artwork, and it accompanied the music. It was part of the music.
Definitely. Yeah.
And in the credits, I always saw this hypnosis thing, HIPG, NOSIS, and I said to myself, what is this thing? What is this company? And I kept seeing it over, all of these great records with all of this great artwork done by that company, that name. And this touched on that for me. I was like, I
Yeah.
could see this as one of those. It's just a classic, just a really intriguing, again, I'll use the word, record to look at. What is that? What is going on? There's all of these questions, and color, the use of color. And I'm an art guy, I was an art student. So, the use of color, all of it came together. It was just beautiful to look at. And the video
Yeah.
takes it that much further. The video is just, ah, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah. There's just, you're saying it's so nice. It's hard to put words to it. It's
It
beautiful. But
again,
it's haunting. I mean, the cover, it's two people in their graves in the desert.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
there's no more brutal of a death than the desert, right? It's so dead in the desert that you can only build life from it, right?
yeah,
So so there's this harmony, like you've been saying that. By the way, our second album, he almost took the job. He
yeah.
passed away, but we were in touch with him about him doing our cover, and he passed
By
away
him, you mean,
in extremis.
but who are you talking about?
Hypnosis.
Storm Thorgerson?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were this close. We were this close, and his aide like basically said, "Hey, we're looking forward to it," and then
Yeah.
it's passing. But we ended up with Paul Whitehead,
Mhm.
who runs our art department, and like you said,
It's so many of my favorite records.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nursery Crime and Trespass and Foxtrot. Those are
and we committed a crime. We forgot to answer this part of your earlier question. Is Paul has a huge effect on the music. So we jam with Paul. We have an idea, Paul. It's about death and guilt trip and stuff, right? He'll come up. He's like, "Oh, I was in Bali and it was raining, and this is what I felt. And then there was this thing that happened." So he draws this thing. We go back to it. I'll go to a print shop and print like a huge foam board, and we'll stare at it, the three of us, and we'll come up with lyrics. So then we go back and forth, and then he photoshops stuff first. Once we have everything, then he paints it.
Just they're collages, and they're amazing collages.
And there's moments of like, Paul, that's not what I wanted to do, but then I surrender, and I'm like, don't control it. Just go with the flow, and you know, it's okay for me to be surprised at my own album. It's okay. You're allowed.
It's great. And I love having. That's one thing I miss with the digital world, is having that artwork. I get it, and it's that big somewhere on my screen, right. And I have to look at it. And whereas before I had this nice big piece of artwork to look at and look into little details, and I miss that. And
it's a full course meal.
It really is.
You really got to sit down and enjoy the food.
Yes. And it was a slow process. You took the time. It was an event. You took the time. You took the record out. You placed it down. You started to play it, and then your journey began. You took time out of your day to do this.
Yes.
And it was an enjoyable event in life. Now, I'm in the car, and I got to switch from one thing to the other, and it's like, unfortunately, I've given into that digital world a little bit, and it's not too often that I actually do settle down and take the time. But you have splatter vinyl available, you have that 12-inch available. I would urge everybody to go look at that. It's gorgeous. daysbetweenstations.com, you can find all of that product. Take advantage of this artwork and this music, and marry the two. Take the time to make it an event, because it really is something special. It's I listen to this stuff. It feels like it's built for the studio. And I know you've kind of been cautious about how and where to present your music. I've heard you talk about that. It's where do we fit? Do we play a library? Do we play a the small theater? How do we bring this music out to people? Have you thought about getting together and producing something in a live setting with the music?
If it's cool with you, Oski, I can talk about the live album, and if you feel like it, to talk about the band now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In May 15th, 2022, we did this live performance. We selected 7 songs, I think, Oscar, right? Drummer, bassist, backing vocals, background singers, Billy, David Hussey, and
Durga,
and Oscar and I. We were all there. So we did this live performance. We're trying to release it this year. As you were talking about Durga, I was dying to tell you the story. So here we are. Oscar, myself, bassist, drummer, right? The bassist is my 12. Oscar's are probably my 11, right? And Durga comes out. Now, she's a lady. She's a pro. Sits down for 6 hours, doesn't say shit, right? Comes out, and this was towards the end, right, Oscar? Of the filming of it. So this was being filmed as well, right? And she starts singing, and I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking to you right now. I swear to you, it was like thunder just struck my back. Like this cannon of a lady, right? And I looked at Oscar, and he knew what I was saying. Like, if I die now,
I'm good.
enough said, right? So yeah, we're gonna be releasing that, and it might be the end of an era for the band, meaning that we might go Zappa, we might go crazy and just do our own stuff. Who knows?
I love that though too.
As I mentioned to you earlier, I have a selfish motive as well, and I have horrible stage fright. I figured out what happened. It was one event. I just discovered it last year. So
we're talking Andy Partridge stage fright.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just implode. Yeah, but basically it was like music night, and we're playing Eleanor Rigby, and I was playing double bass. I got so nervous. All I had to do was play one note a bar. I got so nervous that I screwed up, and the teacher stopped the performance and looked at about 1,200 people and said, "This is there are good players, there's bad players, and then there's Sepand." And he pointed at me, right?
Oh no!
Now I thought it was a Lifetime movie in my head. So when we had a reunion, my best friend in high school found me, and he repeated those lines. I'm like, "Oh shit, that really happened." So when I was standing in front of Durga and Billy, I was just like, I think they call it imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I went from like, "Hey guys," to like, "You're a fraud. You're gonna fuck up. You don't know how to play," and I just imploded within 15 minutes. Right?
Wow.
So part of the spiritual journey, the days between stations of my station, is to get over stage fright.
Wow. That's great. I mean, it's not great, but
it's life, man.
Right, it is. And you're not the only one to deal with that. I know you're not. But boy, it can be, man, if you have that kind of anxiety, wow.
It is. But when I started playing live, I realized how much my musicianship went up, and that's the end goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's that confidence, and knowing what your limitations are, and being confident with yourself. It's pretty great. Great.
And we should mention that we're currently rehearsing with two great players, Bill Forth and Brian Myers, and we actually did a super short set at a place in Tarsana called Last Call Live. And we chose some of our shorter songs to do that night. Radio song, Ghost by Gravity, and Man Who Died Two Times. But I'm very excited personally for this incarnation, of the band. And think we're gonna have more to say about that soon. But we're just sort of taking it easy, taking as long as we need to get ready. Some of the tracks are kind of a challenge to pull off, and it would be if we had the budget, we'd probably have like a couple of utility players, to cover some additional parts and stuff. But
we realize how our sound is thick. It's like a sandwich with extra marmalade and jelly and marshmallows and all that starts dripping. So we have to sit down and say, okay, let's choose this part, choose that part, right?
It's great. It's a great thing to have. A lot of substance to the music, not shallow, for sure. So much piled on there, and it's just it's glorious to listen to. It's really I love progressive music, but this is it's not progressive in the way that you might perceive progressive music as general in general. It does a lot of different things. It's got movement. It's just beautiful what you guys do, and I look forward to all the different things. And I know you're going to progress. You're going to go somewhere different, and that's the joy of Days Between Stations. Is I'm not going to get the same album next time. I know I'm not, and that's fun. I like that. It's
We'd,
a
Yeah.
we'd be lying to ourselves and to the listeners if we rehashed anything.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just feel I'm starting, so I don't know what we're gonna come up with.
I
And
love it.
I'm
you
just
know,
starting to feel centered. Sorry, after 21 years in the band.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
and
hopefully.
like certain bands, like I'm thinking of, for example, if you're familiar with Simple Minds,
Hmm.
from an album like New Gold Dream to Sparkle in the Rain, it's really very different sound,
Yeah,
but it still sounds like Simple Minds, you know. So
right.
I think doesn't really matter where we go. Like Buckaroo Banzai said, there you are, you know. So it's always going to sound like Days Between Stations, you know, no matter what
Yeah,
area we're exploring, you know,
yeah, yeah,
because the personalities are going to come through. I think, you know.
yeah. Your styles of play and the techniques and
What
everything.
we have to say,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
part of our journey is that we're slow cooks in the kitchen.
yeah,
You know, we don't take the plugins, and we like to come up with our sound and the recipes. It's slow,
yeah. And
and we
it's
both
good,
work.
right?
Billy had a joke, wasn't it? Because we only met on Tuesdays. It was once a week. Didn't he just say something like he was going to call the album Giants, like the 50 Tuesdays or something?
Well, I said that too about the first album, because you know they used to ask us why it took us 4 years to make the album, and I said, you know, it was 4 years of Wednesdays, but really it was like 3 months. You know, if you
Yeah,
add up the time. But there's incubation sometimes, but you know, incubation time. You know, you have to kind of let something sit and
yes,
come back to
Yeah.
it later. You know.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of feedback from the music. It breathes back to us.
yeah.
It's really a relationship thing. Not we don't push anything.
That is perfect. And I'm
And
a photographer, so well,
oh
Yeah.
wow,
I'll shoot things and I'll be editing and a lot of it is time restraint. So, I'll be editing late and I'll be editing for 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes. I come back the next day and I look at the stuff and I go, what the hell did I do? You know,
wow,
look at this, you know what I mean? It looks
yeah,
different the next day.
yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
and I would imagine it's the same with music. You make this music and you're into it and you're in the studio and you're working for 5, 6 hours on it straight. And then you go away, you come back the next day and you're like, wait a minute, why did we
Yeah.
do it that way? Well, let's change this. And, it just sounds differently.
yeah,
Um,
Right.
yeah, I would imagine it's the kind of the same thing. Not
Yeah.
always,
yeah.
but I'll sit down at
And
my desk and most times I say, wow, that's too saturated, or, that's not cropped the way I want it to, or whatever it might be. So
or you just don't see the essence in the photo and like you did when you took it.
yeah, yeah, or you're so looking into it so
Yeah,
deeply that you don't ever stand back and
yeah,
look at it. Like a regular viewer might.
yeah,
You're just so engrossed in it that you really don't see it for what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I would imagine the music's much the same. You're
yeah.
you're
It is.
analyzing each and every note and time signature and all the progression of the everything inside the music, whereas you're not listening to it as a whole. Uh,
Right.
And
just
we're very more we're I find we're more mood based than bravado.
mhm,
So the essence of the feeling, the cinema of it is important. And
yeah,
this is why this album was kind of important to us. It's like, hey, we can do this, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And then, like I say, the artwork, and music for film, you did it to film. So there's a visual to this. Even though,
Aspect.
even if you don't see it, it creates a visual. You can make your own visual, or you can
Yeah.
see the Seeds video, which will be linked below, where you get that visual mixed with the music. It's special.
Yeah.
It really is. It's pretty great.
And I've always felt that music kind of is our way of expressing things that kind of can't be put into words in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. There's just
Yeah.
some things you can't say.
Yeah.
You have to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's been special with you guys. I appreciate so much talking about this with you. It's so interesting. I love what you do. Perpetual Motion Machines, music for a film, out there now, available where you stream your music. Visit daysbetweenstations.com. Get that vinyl. Look at that artwork. Hearing that on vinyl and looking at that artwork, and it's crazy. It's pretty great. And again, I want to thank you guys so much for putting up with all you do where you are right now. To be here with me, take the time. It's so special. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
It's our
much.
pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
We super appreciate it.
yeah, please come back when you get the live stuff ready, or the next project.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you guys back again, and we'll talk more about it.
Well, hopefully we can come to your neck of the woods and
Fantastic.
hang out on some pizza.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will be in touch. Again, so much appreciate you guys.
Bless your
Oh,
heart.
for
All
sure.
right, all right.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.